Greetings, my beloved. We're back at it again for another segment of Self Discovery, the podcast. And today we have an amazing guest today that is doing amazing work in the sports arena when it comes to soccer and futsal. We have Ashlee Fontes-Comber live in the building. She is the CEO founder of TLH Reckoning that's doing amazing work out of Tallahassee. They are making history. Along with that, she is the CEO of NICO, and she is also the past president of the U.S. Soccer Coaches, and also she was the former COO of the Washington Spirit. She is doing amazing work, and we are so excited to have her live on the show. We will be talking with her about her life journey and everything that she has done in her life to get to this point where she is, the highs and the lows, the mindset, and really focusing on the mental health when it comes to players, and also the direction of the transition from player to actually becoming a coach, to becoming an entrepreneur, all these different things in the different stages of your life you go through. And before we get to bring this amazing individual on the show, we're going to go ahead and we'll pull an affirmation for today as we get the show started. Today's affirmation says, I seek out happy people who inspire me to be great. I seek out happy people that inspire me to be great. And this is an inspiring, happy person that we're bringing in here that allow everyone to be great. How are you doing today, Ashlee?
Hi, I'm good. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing amazing. I'm so excited to have you on. You are just so awesome. And I'm just excited about all the amazing work you're doing and to share it with the viewers.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate being here. Super excited, and your resume and work is very impressive yourself.
I'm just, I'm just here minding my business.
Right? Aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Oh, I love your blazer. It's so amazing. I love that color.
Thank you. Yeah, pink. Any shade of pink, really. That gets me.
Definitely love it. Today's affirmation says, I seek out happy people who inspire me to be great. What does that mean to you in this stage in your life?
Oh gosh. At this stage of my life, I think I'm much more aware of my energy and the energy that I bring in. So seeking out happy people is definitely something I enjoy doing, because I mean it's tough. It's like we have one life to live. How do you want to live it? Who do you want to surround yourselves by? So I enjoy naturally I enjoy having fun. So happy people, good energy, that's what it means to me right now.
Definitely. And you're doing amazing work. You're making history with TLH Reckoning out in Tallahassee. And on top of that, your resume is just amazing with everything that you've done. Not only, being a former player, coaching, also entrepreneurship, and just being a mentor to so many and changing so many lives. What got you? What was that big shift that says, okay, I'm really into sports. I'm going to become a player. Let's go into the player mindset first.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, it was all about upbringing. My dad was a collegiate and professional American football coach. So it was kind of in our lifestyle. So what were four? He had four brothers. They all played, and then three of them ended up coaching as well. So it's something I was around, but I fell into athletics because we moved around so much. Making friends is hard. Usually moving into very affluent neighborhoods, and I'm the only girl of color in some of those neighborhoods. It was tough. So sports was like a saving grace for me. It was, you get in, you get to compete. You're not really judged as much for all the other things. They just want somebody that's going to be a good teammate, good team player, and that's going to help them win. So I think for me as a player, that's where it initially started. Was just that was how I knew how to be accepted at a very young age. And then every time we moved, it was the same thing. And I was in all sports, every sport. I absolutely loved to compete. I still love to compete. But it started because of my upbringing, and it was definitely, a saving grace for me.
When you were a player in that time, how much was it was the importance of community and a tribe then as it is now?
Oh my gosh, it's so important. You as you play a sport, you're naturally you have a built-in family, right? It's a built-in community. Until it was always me, my mom, and my brother. We were super, super tight, but then you're not with them 24/7. So where do you spend most of your time? It's in school, then it's in sports. So then again, you start because you're an athlete, you start to build this like safe network of incredible people that'll have your back, and those are your teammates, and then they're also at school with you. So it was phenomenal. And then now it's really similar but different since I'm not on the player side of it. You get to formulate the culture of what that should be, and I think it's incredibly important. So now that, like I said, I'm not a player, but in the role of a coach or an executive, now you can dictate that with the players and say, hold on, do you understand how incredible this space is to be in? You're an athlete. That means you have teammates that are going to have your back on and off the field no matter what. You become this family. And I was joking with them when we took our team down last week. I'm like, well, it's we have a saying. It's like once you're in the family, there's only one way out, and we don't do that. So you're in the family no matter what. So that's the culture we like to build in the community setting for that.
And let's transition to coaching. You said, I think in the prior interview, you kind of fell into coaching. It's something you kind of like fell into, and seeing that drive, that ambition for these from these young kids, and it reminds you a little bit of yourself. How does that feel? That whole transition into coaching. But even before that, there was this space in between self identity, right?
Mhm.
Of who am I outside of this label of an athlete going to coaching? How was that transition for you?
Uh, Probably similar to a lot of athletes, it was incredibly difficult. I think I still struggle with it some today because when you're an athlete, you love to compete, and it's like, well, how do you do that if you're not waking up every day to train, and then you're not training to win a game and then win a championship? Um, so how does that translate when you're not an athlete anymore? So it was incredibly difficult for me. And my first reaction was when I was done playing, there was no, the women's professionally folded. And so there's literally no opportunities. Like, okay, well, what do I do? Who am I outside of this? And I tried to distance myself as much as possible from sport. It didn't last long, maybe like 2 months. And then I was working for an ABA expansion basketball team, men's professional basketball, and I'm like, how am I back in this? And then it never stopped. There's just something that it's almost, I don't know if it's actually built in when I was born or just because that's all I know, is how to be in and around sports. So the transition was really hard. And then when I finally got back into coaching, and thank goodness, or got into coaching, thank goodness I ran into a couple key people in my pathway when I was trying to figure things out. And they're like, you need to, if you want to coach, you need to start down, some coaching education pathways. Start learning because we're players, so we're like, oh well, I played, so I know how to coach. Totally different, right? Just because you're a student doesn't mean you know how to teach. You need to learn. It's teaching, right? How do you translate what you know to the players, and then what all the intricacies and complexities and dynamics of, well, based on their age and their physical makeup and their life situation and where they're coming from. There's so many more pieces to it. So I had a couple of people in my life that nudged me in the right direction, jumped into coaching, and it was just like mind blown of, okay, this is the next step in my journey. It still doesn't completely fulfill the athlete void, but just similar to being able to create a culture, you can help positively influence and navigate this path for these players. Because from youth to high school ages, they are so ambitious. And what I realized through my own experiences is that you have people that'll come into your life and as a youth athlete, and they can take your dream away, and that's not fair. And what I try to really, really hone in on with all my athletes is that it is not nobody can take it away from you. If you might be in the wrong environment, in the wrong situation, but there's always a pathway. Like, you have to remember that you love the game, period, and we will find the right situation to put you in. But do not ever let somebody take your dream away. So coaching, incredibly fulfilling, with the impact that you can make, but you have to do it right.
I think that's so important, and you'll see this hat. It says fearless,
Mhm.
basically no fear. Employing people in 2024 to like we weren't born with fear. We were taught fear.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
and when we look at this sports journey, especially, a woman of color and you advocating for the rights of women in this sport, it's not easy. And sometimes other people's fears they basically try to place it on you. We don't know if we don't try. And it's
Yeah.
important, like you said, that if, don't let somebody take your dream. And how important is mentorship? And also sometimes you can outgrow the mentor, so can
Mhm.
you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so mentorship's incredibly important, and something that, um, I've yearned for myself in different phases and just didn't understand what that meant, or that people actually want to give back. And now the phase that I'm at, I try to encourage people all the time, no matter what stage they're at. Like, people really do want to give back, especially when they've achieved certain things in their career. They're in a certain space. That's really like 80% of what they actually want to do. So if you reach out on LinkedIn, I usually respond pretty promptly, as long as it's not, trying to be salesy. It's like, if you want help, I'm like, I will point you in the right direction, if it's not me. Um, but nobody should ever be shy about seeking help or finding a mentor. You cannot let you can't sit back and just let things happen. That's not how it works, especially in the competitive nature of sport. You have to be very proactive, and you have to advocate for yourself. So no matter what stage you're in as a player or in your career, I'm going to go reach out to so and so that's in, US soccer, or for this professional club, or for this college, and say, "Hey, I'm an aspiring player. This is where I want to get to. What advice do you have?" Right? So it could even be an informal type of mentorship. It doesn't even have to be, a long standing, but it could be the bits and pieces and relationships that you need to create right now that will help advance you, in the future. On the mentoring side, I think it's almost our service. If something's giving you so much like sport can do, you should have some commitment to service back, and to being able to help people.
Definitely. And that's so important. And the transition now, you're transitioning from coaching. You've learned from being in high leadership positions. And I know that wasn't easy, being in leadership and then trying to have safe spaces as a leader, because when you're a leader, everybody's like expecting you to be on all the time,
Right.
a human. So, um, taking all that, the life lessons that you learned, how did that impact you transitioning into entrepreneurship and being a CEO in the executive stage for you?
Yeah, gosh, it's so much more self-learning, because you do kind of evolve into, like you said, different positions, different roles, and again, like, energy and boundaries are important, and that's what I would say in my recent, like, 3 years, I've been learning a lot about that, and doing a lot of reading about that, and even like a lot of inner child work. So I can understand why some of my experiences have shaped me to where I am now. But also, I've been doing a lot of, I'm an empath. I am 100% empath. I feel people's emotions. And I mean, I'm the one that, somebody does a kind deed and I'm crying, just because I'm like, oh, the kindness gets to me. So I've really tried to hone in on myself and understand myself better, so I can understand how to support people at a different capacity, at a different level, and make sure I'm also protected. Because if I don't have my boundaries, and if I don't understand myself really well, then I won't be able to navigate all the different angles people are coming to me from. And shoot, I would I would I would be exhausted by, week 2, and be like, I can't do this anymore, right? So um, being able to understand myself better. It's a daily process of reflection, meditation, journaling, to help effectively be a better leader, and that's by taking care of myself first.
Wow. You're tapping into all our little points right here. Like we love that, especially as a leader in this day and time with the world being so crazy, being an emotionally intelligent, being in tune and understanding that people come from different points. And I think that I am so proud of you as doing it as a leader. And there's not, and we've seen through life not every leader does that. So for you
Right.
to do that and show up, and there's one big thing that I really love when you go to the website for the Reckoning is seeing that you're focused on mindset training. And as a yoga
Mhm.
therapist, we look at mindset because you're not only just a player and someone wants you to move on the field, but also off the field. What is the mentality? What is the drive that keeps you going? And also, if something, the situation happens, how are you able to shift back and be on game,
Mhm.
still be settled and safe within the body? And that's something you emphasize wholeheartedly through your
Mhm.
mission through that. Talk to us a little bit about that. Is that from your own experience? How did that become part of the mission for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Part of my own experience, where I've had, like I mentioned before, like I recognize that I've had people in my path, especially as a youth athlete, that have tried to put up blockades, and then I've had coaches that have really advocated for me, and to go through those two different situations at different times was really eye opening. To say, okay, am I in control of my journey?
Mm,
Maybe I'm not. And then transitioning to coach and watching some of these players at the same time, and them being put in difficult situations and then wanting to quit and give up. So all of that, this common theme started to rise. And then, like I said, I'm a lifelong learner, so I do a lot of reading too. I've always been very inspired by the samurai. So I've done a lot of reading on that and like the power of Zen. And it was this book. Actually, this is really funny. I feel so cheesy, but Chuck Norris wrote a book that I read way back in college, and it's like the power within. And
mhm,
so these themes from the experience, and then reading some of this, it's like, okay, hold on. It's not about all these barriers you face. It's not about all these other people. It's about what's inside of you. And we truly do. We don't need to be empowered by anybody. That's saying that somebody else holds the power and they have to give me access to it. I completely disagree with that. We each have our own power within us. We might need allies, advocates, supporters, believers to help us unlock some of that sometimes so that we can truly believe and know. But we are incredibly powerful beyond our belief, and we can get through any adversity. We can be incredibly resilient, just to get through any challenges of life on and off the field. And that's what I always want to instill in our players. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like not all my players in the ones I've coached like me. Some of them would be like, "Oh, she was a nightmare," but even that's a great lesson because it could say, "Well, we weren't like this environment wasn't a great fit. However, there's still a place for you,
yeah.
right?" And there's still, and so our paths don't always have to come together, but to make sure that each player knows that they have that power, and we will, as coaches, as leaders, our job is to try to help them unlock that and have the resources and tools that they need to be able to realize their true power and potential. And that's, that's core, front and center for our players with Reckoning.
Reckoning is outstanding. I love the colors. I love the pink. I love the blue. I love the colors. And the trajectory of this is going to be huge. You created history. What was the thought when you said, "Oh, I'm about to go hard. I'm about to do this here, and we're going to do this in Tallahassee"? Like, tell us
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it again, it was it was over time, finally one of those triggering moments. I'm like, "Wow, this is really not going to change. It
Mm.
is not going to change. And I'm sitting here and I'm watching these girls for the last 7 years seeking, I mean, doing everything they can to seek these opportunities. And they're driving 5 hours, they're driving 2.5 hours. And these are one direction, 4 hours to get access to these resources to chase their dreams. And I'm like, well, hold on. Like, we're in Tallahassee. Yes, it's small. Yes, we're geographically restricted. But we poured so much money into all these other things. Like, why aren't we advocating and supporting for our local kid? This is our neighbor. This is my daughter. This is your niece. This is, we know these people. They're playing at our local high schools, our local middle schools. We celebrate them there, but what else beyond that? And there's this, it's almost like they get to a point here where you get to that cliff and there's a ravine and there's no bridge. It's
Mm.
like, how do you get to that? How do you get to that other side? And it was just completely disconnected. So I was just, I was, I'm an advocate for girls and women, and I'm seeing this happen. I'm like, wait, so you don't want to invest in them? Okay, fine. I'm like, I'm not a multimillionaire, but I will make it happen. Like, we're going to figure this out. We're going to do it for these girls. Again, it's that power within and knowing that others like really want this to happen and see that it's a problem and we are coming with a solution. So yeah, it was just time was up, right? We just have to go, and I am happy to help, make that emerge, and then everyone now, they have to have a torch that they're going to pass on and lead and inspire the future.
Yeah, you're definitely creating a legacy, and you're not only like some people start at, middle school, high school, or, but you're actually starting from the boots on the ground, grassroots, and saying we're going to fully develop all the way up, and we're going to basically hold your hand through the pathways. You're not going to have any questions about, oh, how am I get there? Like, we're going to show you the path. We are going to invest in you all the way to the point where you either get signed or whatever decision you make, but we are going to
Mhm.
support you wholeheartedly, which I'm
Right.
so excited about that.
Yeah, no, 100%. We want them to have no excuses, right? That's what we're trying to teach them, is that you will be provided the knowledge, resources, and access that you need. Now, ultimately, you're the one that's going to have to step through that door. You're going to have to walk through it. Now, when you get there, what are you going to do with that opportunity? Because I mean, in the grand scheme of things, sport is tough. You might only get that one opportunity, to really show. But even if you go and you knock it out of the park, great. If you go and you don't, then how are you going to recover from that? Right? The door isn't completely closed. Like, how are you going to go? So no excuses, power within mentality, no limits.
Definitely. And the yoga, we say we find we're a lot of us look for external happiness or external things, but everything lies within us. We don't lack anything. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. We just have to remember who we are, you know.
Right.
Do that.
Right.
And all of this is in our DNA. It's in us. It's just we forgot, you know.
Yep.
And we have people like you that are doing this amazing work to allow these players to remember who they are on and off the field and support them. Because a lot of these young youth are looking for somebody, because
Mhm.
sometimes they don't get that support at home, you know, and it's hard. So sometimes they come for, counsel and things of that nature. What is the player mindset that you're looking for when it comes to selecting a player at this
Mhm.
moment? What does that look like?
Yeah. So number one for me is character, right? It's almost like hiring employees in a sense. It's anything can be taught,
Mhm.
right? But you have to have the right character. You have to have the right mindset. So culture is super, super important to us because it's going to be hard. And I want to know that the players that are in it can mentally handle the rigor that's coming to them. It's like let's be very clear. Like, we're not setting anybody up on a golden platter, right? We're not just handing this to you. You're going to have to be committed to learning and working and putting in the effort to develop not just your foot skills but yourself as a whole, right? The entire package. So players that come in, it's character, it's mentality, and then it's talent, right? So character, mentality, talent. We have phenomenal, I mean, the coaches. We have
Yeah.
phenomenal coaches
Yeah.
coming in. Like, we can develop you. but we cannot develop the player that is toxic or doesn't have the right mindset or attitude. They wouldn't be ready for our environment and wouldn't be good for some of the other players. However, again, like I said, I'm an empath, so I'm very compassionate and sympathetic to people. So there might just be a different program for you, right? Like why, like, because again, we don't, like you mentioned, we don't know what home environment they're coming from. Maybe that player is like screaming for safety and screaming for something to channel that energy. You're screaming for a mentor. So there will be other ways that we can still help support and advocate for some of those players that might not be ready right now for what we do, but we can get them on a straight and narrow and see if this actually works out for them.
Yes. I love that. I love that even though, they might not come in with, what you're specifically looking for, but you might can see maybe they need some time to get it together or at least create a space, like you said, safety or understand
Mm,
where they're coming from. So then maybe they might be ready later on, but first working
right,
through. And some people, they just
right,
give up. But the fact that you say, yeah, we're going to work with this person is big.
right, right.
And you talked about tapping into the inner child. That's my big thing, harnessing the power of the inner child, that fearless inner child before trauma and the craziness of life.
Mhm.
Fearless, we climbed trees, we were barefooted, we did all kinds of stuff, right? And
Yeah.
how important is that? Okay, for the younger version of Ashley, how is she partner with you now as an adult and you honing that strength for that? How is that working for you in this adult stage of your life?
Oh my gosh, it's been absolutely fascinating for me, and I love it because you say that inner child, and I go back and I can see myself, and I was the cutest little kid. I was so innocent. But I was always very shy. I was always hiding from the world and hiding behind my mom, and I was scared. I was all these things, and doing that work and going through those experiences and reliving them and journaling and reflecting to identify, well, why was I like that? It's almost like I could give her this big hug. Like, I hold her all the time, like, thank you for doing what you needed to do to protect me when I was younger, and now let's go. Right, let's go. Like, totally, we are emerged. We are fearless, from people, from because it was hard moving around.
Yeah.
It was hard being different and moving around, and people weren't kind, and that was really tough. And to try to figure out, well, why don't people like me, or why aren't I being accepted, or all those things that you naturally go through as a youth growing up. And I think it was just exemplified a little bit, and then not trusting. So all of those things, like how I was that little girl. Love her, right? She got us through what exactly how we needed to get through. So now we can be how we are today, and advocating for these other girls that I can see that. I'm like, you're okay. You will be okay. Trust me. Like, it'll be fine. Let's help you. You're good. And then yeah, so we're all one, like all these different phases of that inner child. I've absolutely loved doing the work, and it's really fun to kind of to see the different me's now of being able to speak in public and be okay with it and actually love it, and all those things. So if she wasn't there then, I wouldn't be where I am now.
Mm. Wow. Well, you've become that Shiro that she's been. Oh, we've all. I think we've all become that version of that that person we've been looking for, and it's a great example to see your journey and see your growth, and and the other thing I wanted to ask was, who, if anybody that you could like sit down and have a talk with, dead or alive, who would you have a talk with?
Oh gosh. Oh, that's so hard. I think oh, and I have to breathe because anytime I talk about family, I
Mhm.
get choked up. But yeah, this is gonna be tough. Definitely my grandmother.
Oh,
Um, she was always extremely supportive of me. She was just great. I can't. I mean,
It's
Yeah,
okay.
she was my number one fan. She was my safe space. She was my reassurance. She always saw me and believed in me. So I think it'd be so fun to sit with her and be like, look, you know,
Definitely.
yeah. Sorry, always happens.
That's so
You
dis
can count. Oh, you can count on me to cry, that's for sure. Oh my gosh. I'm
no, that's
surprised I don't have a blooper reel yet. But,
no,
like, I'm together now. My grandmother was an amazing woman. She comes from an immigrant family, immigrated from Cuba. She was second generation or first generation. And she was back in that lifestyle of, the man drove the car and she never pumped her gas and all this stuff. And it wasn't until maybe like I guess it was her 60s where her and my grandfather got divorced.
mm,
And that was heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time because I didn't realize how restricted she was in her life, that she was not living. She was then driving her own car. She was surprising me at Florida State when I was playing. Like she would just show up and I'd be walking down the street and I had no, like she was from Tampa and I'm like, what are you doing here? And she would just come surprise me. Like she was absolutely incredible and always really pushed me to make sure I get my education. There are no limits, and she was always so proud of every barrier that was being broken. So just to be able to sit down with her and be like, "Grandma, check it out!" Like it would be so awesome.
aw, that's so sweet. We definitely need to take a moment and shout out to grandma. I know she is definitely always supporting you in every journey, and I know she's proud of you right now.
Yeah,
So
always. Yeah, she's
definitely,
always with me in spirit for sure.
yeah. Shout out to grandma. But it's those memories and those things that keep us driving and doing the amazing work that you're doing. Like I said, I'm proud of you. I know there's so many people that's proud of you. You've changed so many people's lives and you found your amazing voice to help others. So I'm just proud of everything that you're doing. And where do we see this whole entire movement in the next 5 years?
Oh gosh, I hope it's like an amber and it just catches, the whole forest on fire in the sense that we will be able to do exactly what we set out to do in Tallahassee and create a world-renowned player coach development center for women's soccer. And that the model that we do it with is easily replicated to other areas that aren't served well, that are geographically, institutionally restricted, across America, because we want to reduce and eliminate that gap, that disparity that we have, for all walks of life, for all different income levels. We just want our girls and women to thrive to their highest potentials, and they know no limits.
Mm, we gotta give you roses right now.
Love it.
Oh my God, you are icon and you are doing the work. Follow them on TLH Reckoning on IG. Also go to the website at www.tlhreckoning.com and find out more information about that. You are amazing, you're wonderful, and it's been an honor and a pleasure to sit and talk with you about everything you're doing in this world.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we are now connected in this life. I'm sure there'll be lots more conversations, lots more support going both directions, but can't wait to get you down in Tallahassee and come check things out.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm definitely down for that. And remember, people, as you tune in, support the movement and always remember that life may throw you a curveball, but you're always in charge of the direction it goes. Be fearless, my friends, be fearless. Okay. And on that note, check out for the next everything that's going on coming soon.